Hi, namaskar, everyone. Fascinating discussion as always. Now, not trying to play devil's advocate, I'm using my own self from experience. What's the role of the will? The will. And why I'm saying this, here I was as a child coming through pubescence, bedwetting, biting of nails, motion sickness, only to hear that my mom, she has motion sickness. I only knew that's when I became an adult. But what made me say, I don't like how this feels, we are calling it now in this lecture imbalance. So as a child, because I am now all 7 and 8, can't go to spend any vacations with anybody because I feel embarrassed and ashamed. So bringing in the emotional part, what you are saying is, what was your experience? My experience was shame, embarrassment, whatever, and wanting this to stop. And so I can't recall what I did, but I know the bedwetting did. And then whenever I had an exam, I would get bronchitis, a real severe case of bronchitis, roasting fever, the whole gamut. And all of that. And I used to wonder in my little mind, am I going to be burdened with this? Now, I can't remember what I did, but the bedwetting stopped when I was about 9. The nail biting continued for some into my adulthood. The motion sickness was again when I started to fly. And the first thing I would do is look for the vomit bag, as they call it. And then I started looking at this and saying, but wait, I wonder if by just looking for this bag, I am planting the seed. Well, kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy that this will come. So through willpower, mixed with the embarrassment, so I willed myself that on this flight, I'm not going to eat. I'm going to just take maybe a soda, clear soda, and sip and sip, and no talking with anybody, no walking up and down the aisle. So it was a way of changing my behavior. And I mean, so many things are swirling in my mind, Dr. Gupta, because you hit on so many things. And even when Guruji interjected with that part of character types, because I know at a management level in the organization, when I think some department was really not producing, and when the management consultant came in and they did this exercise, they realized that the composition of the staff in that unit, 3/4 of them were abstract random. They would just think tangentially, no concrete specifics, nuts and bolts. And all of this I'm thinking through and linking it to the doshas that you are speaking of, because it meant that at an organizational level, if you don't have people who are grounded and say, hold a minute, you're going a little too fast. You way down the road and we haven't yet understood the nuts and bolts. What do we need? What are the tools we need? Pace it a little more. This has wide impact on all of these various things. And then, Guruji, I'm also remembering, as you say, when we are born and we come with this, whether it is blueprint as the DNA, and we come with influences of the parents, and we come into this karmic play, for want of a better word. I remember when Guruji said the advantage we have in being open, you can change your play, you could change your stage, so using your word, Dr. Gupta, so even though you come with these things and you have the tendency, whether it's a genealogy, diabetes is in your family, and you have the tendency and predisposed to want sweet things, but through will, so I come back to that will, you say, no, I'm not going to say the cake is calling me and all these things to kind of pander to it. I could block it. I could intervene and say, I don't want to go there. So all of that, I tried to use different caveats to say, how does all of that come because as a child, I don't know of all these doshas, but I was able to stop certain things because of how it made me feel. There was a dis-ease in my system and an imbalance, and I didn't want it to persevere. And I made the change. What role would you say willpower has at an emotional level that could affect behavioral change, if I say it correctly? I hope it wasn't too convoluted, but because I only met my Ayurvedic doctor as an adult when I had a real traumatic experience at a nervous system. And that's when he put me on the herbs and olive oil. And so clearly he was going into the doshas that he didn't verbalize it, and doing with the cupping and all these different things to realign my system. But that's when I knew of the word Ayurvedic and the whole homeopathic thing. So I don't know if you can clear it or what role will has in combination with all of what you said. That we could be predisposed to a certain way, but then we could consciously change the dance, change the way, because we don't like what consequences come with certain actions that we do, certain diets that we take, and all of it. And I'm speaking from experience because I'm doing it now consciously, that I don't like how this makes me feel. Change that. I agree with you, cleanse, and then shift, carry it in another direction. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for asking this question, even though I am short of time, but because this is very important topic, very important subject, I would briefly like to address that. In some ways, you have answered your own question, but I still want to clarify a few things. Number one, if you are attributing your childhood behaviors, biting nails, bedwetting, and all those things to dosha, I don't know much about you right now, but I can tell they may not necessarily be symptoms of your dosha. They may be some things of your exposure in your childhood, going through the parenthood, going through the schooling, what you are got exposed to. They may not necessarily be because of your dosha type. Number one. Number two, so they could be area of mind, they could be area of emotion. And when we come to mind, then it is sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now there is a chance that because what you got exposed to, the sattva might have came down, the belief in yourself may have came down, and you might have become vulnerable. And the parenting, I'm not saying that, I'm just guessing everything. The parenting may not help you to raise your sattva and become grounded. If those things are noted cautiously and with compassion and sympathy, they could have been taken care right there. Now, this is all on assumption, but I want to answer this question so that people don't mix up these emotional and behavioral things of biting nails, bedwetting, and other things to dosha. These, because we are now talking about the mental imbalance, emotional imbalance, and physical imbalance. If we are talking about these things and we think, okay, this is vata imbalance, and if we give vata diet, nothing will happen, nothing will change. It has to be addressed differently. Now, when we talk about will, a weak sattva or low sattva will automatically will not be strong. So the approach is, one of the treatment in Ayurveda, type of treatment in Ayurveda is called sattva vajaya, means raising sattva. And raising sattva at the child age comes from how child interacts and treated by children and surrounding. That's very important. And giving that belief in self has to be done very carefully. That's why, from Ayurvedic perspective, now it has to be focused on parenting and Ayurveda practice in the childhood and school. And I can tell you that I'm very serious on this. Why there is a need of this? Because the problems, emotional problems and behavioral problems in children as young as 6 and 7 are raising. Because what is supposed to be during the childhood is not happening. So I would say that has a lot to do with how parenting and schooling is done. The primary focus for that not to be how skilled and what kind of profession you will go in and what kind of money you will earn in. It has to be just inner core without going into complexity, raising that grounding, the belief, approval, affirmation in very gentle and compassionate and sympathizing way. That is primary to make up the personality of the person. And that's why I will just touch on this, because this is a subject that is very vast. There are 6 factors in Ayurveda for a personality to grow. Even they are considered even before child is born. So, and those are parental, paternal, maternal. These everyone knows. But the other 4 are to do with diet, raising the sattva, focusing on suitability. So those are the factors. And those factors come in not just because of parental DNA, paternal DNA, and maternal DNA. Those are also the mental status, emotional status of both father and mother at the time of pregnancy, during pregnancy, after. And that's what makes persons will. That's what makes persons vulnerability or not vulnerability. That's what gives natural tendency in a person to take it easy. That's what gives natural tendency in a person to let go. So these are the things that will make up the childhood behavior.
Okay,
And if you don't, just one second, if you don't focus on those and then wait for, and just attribute, oh, this person is very problematic, it doesn't help.
100% agree with you. So do we use the dosha treatment at all for the children growing up?
If there are physical symptoms of dosha imbalance, definitely.
But next question.
But primary treatment should be focused on the sattva.
Agreed. But can imbalances at the mental level within a child also create physical issues?
Yes, they can. But the focus has to be on what is primary cause.
Yeah, agreed.
So we can definitely give, like say if there are vata imbalances of mind, we can give some vata diet, but that alone will not help.
Agree.
Okay. And what other things that we can do, like say if we are giving these ashwagandha, brahmi, shankurti, which are the herbs for raising the sattva, but then for vata person, we will have these same herbs in ghee. For pitta person, we will give the same herbs in different way. For kapha person, we will give.
And in terms of age, let's say ashwagandha, for example, do we give that to young children?
We can. A small dose, but we can. I think this was very good question, Jenny. I don't know if it helped, the explanation helped you.
Yes, you certainly did, because I realized the depths, because because we know of the phenotype and the genotype and all these labels, but they're so layered and interlocking. And so I could really understand, but I must appreciate your attempt at times in acknowledging you didn't know, you were speculating, but it made sense. It made sense to me at a cellular level of what we could be and the importance of parenting, because anybody could be a mother and a father, but the influence of that parenting on this personality type and personality profile And then, as you say, the impact of the peers of that child, where we are now in an atmosphere of bullying. And that has brought on a whole other cruelty, you know. But I really must thank you for the answer that you gave in a more comprehensive way, based on what I proposed.
Thank you for asking the question.
Complex.
Yeah,
thank you
for
so
asking
much.
the question. I just have to say that being part of the group that is raising positive energy, raising sattva, focusing on parenting before becoming parent is one of the fundamental ways we can change the world. Because we realize the problems after it has already become a problem. We realize that why teenage problem is raising after it has already become a problem. So we are learning from the outcome after it has already happened. The teenage problem and all those things, the ADD and attention deficit and violence and all those things, we are learning after it has happened. I think we need to put more emphasis at all levels, individual level, on proper parenting.
Parenting, definitely.
Dr. Gupta, quick confirmation. Now, our mental and emotional level really relates to soul being, non-physical being.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So in our
and the solution is inside out. In the dosha, sometimes it's outside in, but for these problems, it is inside out. Right.
So here's where we'll use the gunas, the Rajagun, Sattvagun, and the Tamogun. But when it comes to the physicality, are you saying then that the gunas do not apply? The gunas, these three, do not apply.
So there is the what we call as psychosomatic disorder. In that case, it is definitely necessary that we focus on both.
Okay.
So we have the methods and the treatment methods for mind, emotion, self, and we also have for the physical doshas, vata, pitta, kapha.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Most welcome. So I'm glad that actually on this great day of Guru Purnima, I see that how Guru was enlivened in each one. The great questions that came. Thank you, Guruji and Jenny, for enriching this whole experience, this today's experience. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I myself feel very fulfilled with this 1.5 hour of session. I thank you all.
Thank you, and Shubh Guru Purnima to you.
Thank you.
You're guiding so many people. So continue to be a shining light.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Gupta, thank you for a wonderful session today. It was most appreciated. I think you've cleared up a lot of things for us. We still have a lot of learning to do and revision to do. I'm sure all of us will agree with that. And I am again apologizing for the delay in this program. When you give information like that, it is always expected that the time will go over time. Thank you so much.
It was worth delay.
Absolutely.
It was worth delay. And I will also ask you now, because yesterday when we were talking and you were saying you are a little bit anxious, have you had fun?
He promised me fun yesterday, and I did. Just listening to all the information and just listening to the questioning, and it has improved my understanding of both gunas and doshas. But again, like I said, I will have a lot of work to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy Guru Purnima and your weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you. You too.